Oh hey, welcome back. You know, I think when most people hear the term offset guitar, the first thing that comes to mind is probably a Jazzmaster. The second thing is maybe their favourite Jazzmaster derived guitar, and maybe thirdly at a push, a Jaguar. Even though it makes up a third of the trinity of offset guitars, the poor Mustang often gets overlooked when compared with its more sophisticated and beautiful siblings. However, I love the Mustang, and today we're checking out my attempt to build the perfect Mustang and to make it more sexy. If you love the Mustang or any of its close relatives, please give this video a like and let me know in the comments below which Mustang related guitar is your favourite one. Please share this video with like-minded nerds. That will really help appease the insatiable algorithm and bring this video of positive offset guitar content to more people. We've got more Mustang videos on the way, and every other week I upload a new offset guitar specific video. So please subscribe and stick around for more. Now, I will admit, the Mustang is a little bit disadvantaged when compared with the Jaguar or Jazzmaster. Whereas these were intended as top of the line, the best money can get instruments for the professional musicians of the day, the Mustang was intended as a budget-friendly student model. However, Leo Fender's offset ethos continued in the Mustang, and while it doesn't have quite as much chrome or quite such seductive lines as the Jaguar or Jazzmaster, you can really see in the design of this instrument how Leo Fender was continuing to strive for improvement on the existing offset designs. Obviously, the Mustang retains the offset body styling of the Jaguar and Jazzmaster before it. The original design comes with a separate chrome control plate, just like the Jaguar. It has two single coil pickups that are controlled by two funky switches. However, the part of this guitar that really gives you an insight into Leo Fender's mind is with the design of the Vibrato. Despite its reputation, here, of all places, you can really see the progression of Leo Fender's design ideals. We go from in 1954 with the unveiling of the Strat, with its 6-point trem system and huge amounts of wood taken out of the guitar, both on the front of the body and the back of the body. And anyone who's ever spent much time with a Strat will be familiar with the sympathetic vibrations you get from the springs rattling away in the back cavity of the body. We then move on to 1958 with the introduction of the Jazzmaster. Here, Leo has moved to a 2-point tremolo design with significantly less wood taken out of the body to install it. However, arguably this design did introduce issues of unwanted resonance behind the bridge, similar to that of the Strat springs in the back cavity, and the potential pitfalls of a floppy arm and poor brake angle. Always striving for improvement in his designs, Leo then came out with this in 1964. I really believe this design shows Leo's intention to try and fix all of the issues that have been raised with his previous designs. For example, now with this Vibrato, we have the least wood ever taken out of the body to accommodate the internals of the unit. We have an improved brake angle over the newly designed bridge. We eliminate behind the bridge resonance. There is no noise or rattle from the springs either. It's incredibly quiet in operation. There's no knocking or squeaking or rattling. And the arm comes with a grub screw in the side to adjust the fit of the arm in the cigar. I really think you can see Leo Fender's problem-solving brain and his engineering mentality in the design of this guitar. And I think that's really special and really cool. I really wanted to make a Mustang that meets all of my needs as a player and capture more of the retro-futuristic charm of the 50s and 60s that makes the Jaguar and Jazzmaster so special. Okay, so before we dig into what makes this guitar particularly special, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the general specs so you get a kind of feel for what this guitar is like. At its core, this guitar is intended to take all the best parts of Fender Mustangs from the 60s, and the specs very much reflect that. To start with, we have a two-piece swamp ash body from Guitar Build UK, finished in a nice natural looking true oil finish, which looks really nice. For the neck, we have a reproduction early 60s Fender neck from Musicraft USA. We have a maple neck with a really nice dark rosewood fretboard. We have imitation clay inlays and small vintage frets. We have a 7.25 inch fretboard radius and a 1 5/8 inch nut width. The profile is taken directly from an early 60s Jazzmaster. We have a really thin 0.79 inches at the first fret, and that fattens up quite dramatically until we get to almost a full inch at the 12th fret, where it fattens up to 0.97 inches. And the whole thing is finished in a thin skin style nitrocellulose finish. Moving on to the hardware, we have a KMS JAM Bridge paired with a vintage Fender 1969 dynamic Mustang Vibrato. In terms of pickups, we have a vintage Durasonic / Mustang reproduction pickup in the neck from Northern Pickups, and we have a really cool pickup in the bridge from Curley Oak Pickup. Both of those pickup winders are based in the UK. They both make awesome offset guitar pickups, and they're both very reasonably priced. So far, as much as possible, we have used vintage reproduction parts for this build. Okay, so what is different about this Mustang that makes it perfect for me? And what have I done to try and capture some of that cool, nostalgic, retro-futurism that makes the Jaguar and Jazzmaster so special? Well, let's break this down into three categories: sound, performance, and aesthetic. Regarding the sound of the Mustang, my only complaint about the traditional Mustang design is that I'm not the biggest fan of the kind of thin, mid-scooped, slightly flubby low end that a Strat bridge pickup can have in a Mustang. Mustangs to me never sound as tight or as punchy or as mid-present as a Jaguar, for example, and that's something that I have always missed in a Mustang. Despite various different experiments to try and get a Mustang pickup to sound more like a Jaguar, which you can see here, in the end I decided to swap out the Mustang bridge pickup altogether for a Jaguar pickup. This pickup is a reproduction 1965 Jaguar pickup from Curley Oak Pickups in Wales, and I decided it would be really cool to try and keep as much of the Mustang aesthetic as possible, so I took off the Jaguar pickup cover and I slotted in the original Mustang pickup cover between the claw. So if you don't look too closely, it still just looks like a normal Mustang. But if you look a bit more closely, you can clearly see that Jaguar pickup claw there, and you're still getting these sonic benefits of having the pickup claw on the pickup. To get a bit more bite and presence out of the guitar, I have swapped out the tone pot for a no-load tone pot. So that's the equivalent of having a 500k volume and tone pot in the guitar. These sonic tweaks really hit the spot for me, and I'm so happy with the sound of this guitar. I love the twangy, punchy, mid-present sound that you get with this guitar. It sits so well in a band mix between drums and bass and vocals. It just notches in a way that none of my other guitars do. And I really like the extra mid-range and punchiness and twanginess that you get compared with the more traditional mid-scooped, slightly looser low-end sound of a normal Mustang. Moving on to the performance of the Mustang, there were just a couple of little tweaks I wanted to make the Mustang perfect for me. Firstly, I wanted to slightly swap up the wiring and electronics of the Mustang. I am personally not a fan of out-of-phase guitar sounds, by which I mean properly out-of-phase guitar sounds where the pickups are 180 degrees out of polarity with each other. I just don't like that honky thin thing. I'm never going to use it. It's not for me, it's not something I've ever used. So I took these two switches, which are from my first ever full-size guitar, which was a Teisco Telecaster Deluxe kind of guitar. And these are just simple on-off switches like you would get on a Jaguar. When I have both of them down, I just have the bridge pickup. When I have both of them up, I just have the neck pickup. And when I have the neck pickup up and the bridge pickup down, I have both pickups engaged. For me, that's a lot more intuitive and natural than having the 3-position sliders and potentially ending up with an out-of-phase sound by accident, and that's just a lot more usable for me. I always know what sound I have, and I can get there really easily. The second practical change I made to this guitar is with the 1969 dynamic vibrato. When I bought this, it didn't come with a vibrato arm. When the unit arrived, I found that this spare classic player Jazzmaster arm I had fits perfectly in the cigar. The really cool thing about this really simple mod is it unlocks two completely different feels out of the vibrato. If you hold the vibrato here around the bend, you get a very similar feel to using a normal Mustang vibrato arm. However, if you hold the vibrato arm towards the tip, you get a completely different feel. I really like how effective this super simple mod is, and of course I borrowed this idea from Mike Adams. The 1032 thread of the classic player arm fits perfectly in this cigar. There's no play in the arm, it stays in there really nice and snugly with the grub screw tightened up against it. You can still move the arm easily with no binding or horrible feelings. And it's just super practical and versatile. Then, and most obviously, and probably what you've been wondering throughout this whole video, is the aesthetic part of my upgrades. And this all centers around the super sick pickguard that I've got from Indra Guitars in the UK. Nothing says 1960s space race more than unnecessary Art Deco chrome and decorative fins. And while this is technically aluminium, I think it absolutely fits the bill. I also love the aesthetic of 1950s and 1960s horror film posters. They have a really nostalgic look to them that absolutely harkens back to exactly the same period as those kind of space race, Art Deco, retro-futuristic design elements do as well. Richard at Indra Guitars drew up this really cool custom design for me, and I think this deep sea themed pickguard and headstock cap absolutely harkens back to those kind of retro movie posters, and I think it all just ties everything in a really nice, cohesive way. As a finishing touch, we went for Finster Murkstang on the headstock. In Yiddish, the word Finster means dark or gloomy, but also it ties together the sea creature themes as well as the chrome fins that you would get on all those kind of 1960s retro-futuristic car designs. And I think that's just a really fun, nice touch to tie the whole thing together. Alright, so altogether this guitar costs somewhere in between a Fender Vintera 2 and a Fender American Performer Mustang. About £1,100 all in. But was it worth it? Should I have just bought a Fender Mustang instead? In my opinion, this build was absolutely worth every penny. Firstly, I just love building parts guitars. I find the process of planning the build and saving up for each component and putting them together and solving any little issues that come up so fun and enjoyable and satisfying. I really do love the process of building guitars. I will always find building a guitar so much more satisfying than just buying one. But let's do a thought experiment. Let's imagine I walked into a guitar shop and I saw this hanging on the wall next to a Vintera 2 and an American Performer. I'm still totally going and picking up this one first before I think about looking at the Vintera or the American Performer. This guitar is just so me. It speaks to everything I love about guitars and about offset guitars and about the Mustang specifically as well. This is everything I'm looking for in a Mustang. The look, the sound, the feel, and also I would much rather have a nitrocellulose finish with a vintage profile than a poly finish with a modern profile. Is that just me though? If you saw this, a Vintera 2 and an American Performer, which one would you go for? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Okay, so in terms of room for improvement, is there anything I would do differently if I was going to build this Mustang again? I only have two real complaints about this guitar. The first one is something that we haven't even mentioned yet. For this guitar, I've just got a relatively cheap set of Wilkinson split post tuners, and they work absolutely fine, but I prefer the more premium feel of the Clusons and Goto split post tuners that I have on other guitars, and eventually I would like to upgrade these for some Clusons. But that's a pretty minor complaint. Secondly, although you probably won't have caught it in the right lighting in this video, I do have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the finish on this body. I actually got this body second-hand, and the previous owner finished it without using grain filler in the guitar first. And so what that means is in the right lighting, like this, it looks really, really nice. The grain is so striking and really, really obvious and visible. Whereas in other lights, it just looks like a flat blob, like someone sucked on a piece of toffee and then spat it out. The new pickguard really helps. I had a DIY pickguard on here before, and the beautiful artwork from Richard at Indra really does help to counteract that. But part of me does still wonder about getting the body refinished. I spoke to Thomas Giles at Regent Guitars, and if you love offset guitars and cool finishes, you should absolutely check out Regent Guitars. Thomas does really cool refinishes, and he loves spraying guitars with metallic and flake finishes, which are my personal favourite. Thomas said because of the true oil finish on the guitar and the lack of grain filler, he wasn't 100% sure how well a sparkle refin would take to this guitar, and it was inevitably going to be kind of expensive. I would still love to do it, but I can't really justify the price. But if you need a guitar refinishing in the UK, particularly in a metallic or sparkle finish, absolutely hit up Regent Guitars. The work Thomas does is amazing. So that's it. I really like this guitar. I'm really happy with it. It looks really cool on the wall. It feels great in my hands, and it sounds great in my band as well, which is kind of what more can you want from a guitar than that? A lot of you have asked questions about this guitar before, both on Instagram and here on YouTube, and I hope that's covered everything you've ever wanted to know about this guitar. If you have any questions about any element of the guitar that I haven't covered, or something that didn't make sense, please let me know in the comments below, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether you would build a Mustang yourself and what you think of this particular build. I have noticed a trend that my Mustang videos don't do quite so well as my Jazzmaster or Jaguar videos, so I'd love to get your feedback on this video to see what I can do better, and just to help the algorithm promote Mustang videos more than just Jazzmaster videos. We've got a lot more Mustang videos on the way, including checking out this Mustang-shaped object behind me. Alright, well, until next time, take it easy, look after yourselves, and we'll see each other again soon.